Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and I'm bringing back Paul Savich. He's the Managing Director of WA1 Resources. ASX code is WA1, nice and easy. He's probably the happiest Managing Director on the ASX right now, because for those of you that remember, I spoke to Paul before they listed back in November 21, I think it was, and they listed in February of 22 at 20 cents, and boy, oh boy, they had a stellar run. A lot of people talking about it, a lot of people saying, could you please have Paul back on? And the reason he's been absent for a little while is because, first of all, he's been busy, big discovery over in the Arunta region in WA, Niobium. We're going to talk about Niobium. We're going to talk about where they're going from here and what led them to this extraordinary discovery, which has put a fire under their share price. Paul, great to see you. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. It's been a little while. It's good to be here.
If only I had a crystal ball back then. But anyway, as always, ladies and gentlemen, not financial advice. Go out and do your own research or pick up the phone and speak to Paul. Sorry, Paul, put you in at that for that one. Paul, let's go back to when we last spoke. This was Greenfields area that you were looking at. Walk us through how you got to this discovery.
Yeah, so I guess the WA1 objective that we spoke about last time was we'd go out and try to make tier one discoveries in underexplored regions of Western Australia, and through that we would end up creating value for all our stakeholders, and particularly given where we operate, the traditional owners and the communities around where we're operating. We're passionate about that. We believe we can have a positive impact, and so we went out to our West Arunta project, which we'd spent at least 3 years working up to that point to get it to the point it was ready for IPO, effectively drill ready. So we IPO. It was a tough IPO to get away. It was a pretty tough market, but we ended up getting there on the 8th of February last year, and so we completed a few more geophysical surveys, and we're out. So it's proper greenfield setting. So how do you explore out there? Well, you start with your geophysics, and you mainly gravity and magnetics. And the reason we used those was we had an IOCG, iron oxide copper gold model we were chasing. It was just based on the historic information we had in the region. We needed a model, otherwise everyone would have thought we're crazy just going out there drilling holes and not knowing what we're looking for. So, but at the heart of that is we're looking for dense and magnetic features that had a contrast to the surrounding country rock. So that there was something different going on there, and so we spent about $1 million on geophys to try and maximise our drill holes. We had a small budget. We're out there to drill it and kill it, and so we picked our three favourite targets. A P1 target, which we put 3 holes in, just a big regional scale geophysical anomaly, and there's still hope there, but it's definitely a different setting. We put a single hole in our P2 target, so it sits on a nice regional structure. It's a very, very discrete gravity anomaly, semi-coincident magnetics, and so we put a single hole into that, and we had our Looney target. And that was an absolute standout target. A prominent hill, a very high amplitude gravity anomaly, semi-coincident magnetics. The geophysicist's best dream. And so we put 3 holes into that. In truly reconnaissance exploration. And so last year we had no idea what we were going to hit, but we felt like we gave ourselves the best chance to find something as well. And the result of that was 2 carbonatites, which I'm not sure if.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Two carbonatites? Because there's a lot of people that listen.
Exactly.
They're not geologists. They're looking at this going, what's a carbonatite?
Yeah, so very similar in terms of geological setting to IOCG. So it's a big intrusive system that's come up. So we're talking deep mantle tapping structures. That's why we want to be at a nice structural setting. And then it's a blob that's come up under the surface, and that's there's been fluid events that have happened in that to deposit the minerals. But it's it's an intrusive system. So it's and so when you look at our geophysics in our presentations, you can see it's mainly the gravity that's been driving our interpretation of where the carbonatite is, and and so that's what we've been been targeting with our drilling this year at Looney. And so the way these things form, I mean, carbonatite just has lots of carbonate in it. There's usually multiple fluid events in these things, and so you get different minerals being deposited at different areas at different times. And so when we look at what we're doing at Looney at the moment, the objectives of this program are to define the extent of the carbonatite. So we do that on a grid pattern. We've picked the 200-metre spacing because that means we're not going to miss a small high-grade pod, but at the same time, this is still reconnaissance drilling in the Looney carbonatite. And so we're trying to, along with that objective of defining the lateral extent, is to understand the zonation within the carbonatite. And so they're the two primary things we're doing at the moment. So that was the first results we released last year were from that.
Paul, I just want to understand, because this is niobium, and we'll get onto that in a minute, like what is niobium, why is it important? But before we do, this area that you chose to go and drill and explore and have a look at, and you've made a discovery, I just want to, how'd you get your hands on it? And how big is it, and why did you choose Looney? Like, I just want to find out, because a lot of people go out and explore, and a lot of people explore for many, many years, but you seem to have just gone, there it is.
It's so it's a belt that just didn't have any drill holes in it, and it was always known this was a Proterozoic belt, and Proterozoic rocks host 90% of Australia's mineral wealth. So we're going out there. We weren't reinventing geological framework. We're just going to an area that people hadn't been to, and that was driven by remoteness. The Gary Junction Road that it links up Alice Springs to Port Hedland. It's about 3 hours off that down a pretty tough track, which we've now spent. This year we've spent almost $500,000 getting that up to scratch. But so it's just an area that was tough to get to. In February this year, our non-exec director Tom Lyons transitioned to executive because he'd been operating out there on the Salt Lake with Agrimin for almost a decade. And our key risk this year was exploration. Conducting our exploration successfully, and Tom massively de-risks that for us. So that's why he transitioned into an exec role. So the point I'm making there is it's a challenging place to operate, and there's only a few people like Tom that know how to operate out there. He's got the relationships with traditional owners. He knows which helicopter companies to call up to do the heritage surveys. He's just every element of our exploration he's done before on a salt lake. So this feels easy for him, I assume, being back on land. So we just there were some regional scale geophysical anomalies out here that led us to it, just that you can see in the government statewide data sets. And so they were the genesis of us getting out here. We didn't really have much more science behind it than that. We knew there were big regional scale geophysical anomalies. No one had tested them. And we had a small budget once we IPO'd to go out there and do some exciting, make or break exploration. And it's what we wake up in the morning for. So
and I love your enthusiasm and your excitement. But one of the things about this project is it is so remote. Is it like a stranded asset, or are you confident and comfortable that this asset will get to the size where it will be able to be unlocked, if you like? It's remote in that there's not much around it, but it's and it's 1,200 k's from Port Hedland. One of the biggest terminals in the world. So it's remote, but it's and that's why we say in WA1's objective is to find a tier 1 discovery, because you need something good when you're in these areas. But I think a lot of the prime challenges of being out where we are, we can overcome, particularly, on the power side. I think, wind and solar now are just becoming such a big thing. So I think, power is becoming easier. We've got another option of heading to Alice Springs, which is 800 kilometres away. One of the beauties about finding niobium, it's a really high value product. It's selling for north of US $30,000 a tonne. So in terms of it's not a bulk operation. It's more of a, I guess you could call it a niche high value commodity. So that's going to assist as well. So I don't think we're going to have that tyranny of distance to things. But no, there's always going to be more challenges. We wish we were 100 kilometres from Port Hedland, but this project's going to forgive where it is. Let's talk niobium. Because a lot of people will go, niobium, what is niobium? Can you just give us a view, just give us an overview of what is it? What's the market look like?
So niobium is it's a microalloy used in steels, and so it assists with grain refinement in the steel making process. So it means when you form the steel, you bend it, you flex it, it doesn't crack. And so one of its applications we like to talk about is in vehicles. Pretty much every car today would have some niobium in the chassis because it strengthens the steel. It helps it bend and flex as you're bouncing down the road, and it also means you need less steel because of the strength of the steel. So we like to use this in the analogy that you put 300 grams of niobium in a car chassis. It reduces the weight of the steel required for the car by 200 kilos. So therefore, It makes the car 5% more efficient. It's essential in all major infrastructure projects. Big bridges, big buildings. In China in 2017, they changed the building code after some earthquakes. It's now mandatory to have niobium in a lot of the steel in their high-rise buildings. So it's a very mature market. So CBMM, the main player in the niobium space, started operation in 1940, and so this isn't something this is an advent over the last couple of decades. This is a market that's very mature. We know who our end customers are going to be. There's 50 or 60 consumers of CBMM's products. And so I guess moving on to that market dynamic, it's a critical metal. It's second highest supply risk in the US, and the United States consumes 20% of global niobium demand, and the EU again it's rated 5th in their critical minerals list, and they consume about 20% of global niobium. So that's 40% between those two. It's about 100,000 tonne per annum market.
Right.
And about 90% of that is coming from Brazil at this point.
90% from Brazil. My goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
And if the product coming out of Brazil, is that starting to get low on supply, and therefore you're going to step into the gap, or
No. So they've got a massive reserve over there, and so the primary producer in Brazil is a CBMM. They've got the Araja deposit. It's about a 2.5% head grade, and it's an absolute monster. And it's proof that in niobium land, it's the same as any other commodity. Grade is king. It always is. So they're 2.5% head grade. The next highest grade deposit around the world is about 1.1%.
Okay.
And they've got a massive reserve there, but they're very disciplined on supply and very disciplined on pricing. But this is a critical metal, and the world needs more supply outside of Brazil. At the moment, there's only one other producer. There's only one producer outside of Brazil, and that's Niobec in Canada. And so, to put that into context, Niobec produce about 7,000 tonne per annum, and in the US and the EU, they're consuming about 40,000 tonne per annum of this critical mineral. Okay. And so, I guess at the heart of the WA1 story is there needs to be another Western supply of niobium outside of Brazil, and that Araja deposit with a 2.5% head grade is just an absolute standout globally, and that's what's really crystallised value in WA1 last week when we put out our results, which the headline was 13 metres at 5%, from only near surface 40 metres, and it's within a broader halo, a much broader 30-odd metre halo at 3.5%, and we're seeing massive continuity between our 200-metre step-out drill holes. We're doing step-out 200-metre holes and seeing the same thing, and it's just so we've got huge potential here to pull together the highest grade niobium resource in the world, and it's right here in Western Australia, one of the best jurisdictions. I saw a small caps article this morning that we've been pipped by Nevada, but we're now the second highest ranked mining jurisdiction in the world. So it's a great place to find something like this.
That's why he's the happiest managing director on the ASX, ladies and gentlemen. You raised some money. Was it last week you raised some money? Just talk to us about that cap raise.
Yeah.
What price? What are you doing with the funds? Why now?
Yeah. So we had about 10 mil left in the bank. So we did a raising last year in November on the back of the discoveries. We've been very structured through this whole process from IPO onwards. And as soon as we made the discoveries last year, we knew we needed $10 million to get us through this year's exploration. And so that's exactly what we went out and raised. And we put our results out last week, and they beat our wildest expectations, and they've given us conviction that we will be out here drilling indefinitely. We're going to have to be doing a whole lot of infill to get a resource together. We're starting network. We're trying to the old Steve Jobs. Right, if you're serious about software, you should be serious about hardware. We're saying if you're serious about exploration, you should be serious about development. And this project's real. We joke that these rocks cannot stay in the ground, and so we're taking that approach. We're working feasibility study backwards and saying, what are we going to need in the future? So we've got our first environmental survey starting next week. We've got met test work starting, all these things that cost a lot of money. And so we thought, let's just make sure we're funded enough to meet our corporate objectives. And so we had an institutional investor come in with $10 million last a couple of days ago. And so we took that off the table. And so now we've got 20 in the bank, and we're fully funded for this year's exploration, and we can just get back to work. So it's a good feeling.
It's a very good feeling. But what would you say to those people? I mean, what's your market cap now about? So you got 20 mil in the bank.
About 150 mil market cap.
And the size of this deposit is just going to keep growing.
Yeah.
You've had an extraordinary run with the share price. Do you think it might have overrun itself, or do you think that there's a lot more value to be had?
I feel really good about what we've got now. Last week's results were spectacular. They really crystallised in my mind that we've got something real. I think stepping back to last year, we had the first announcements about the carbonatites, and I think everyone wanted us or me at that stage to say this was real, and I just didn't. They were really great results, but I just didn't quite have the courage of conviction. And the results we put out last week, I can now sit here and say that this is real. We feel amazing about what we've pulled together. We've now got 400 metres north-south and 400 metres east-west, continuous mineralisation envelope. And it just, it's now, it feels so real now that we can see the path forward from here. We've got, we only put out our first assays. This is the start of our program. But from here, it's we feel emboldened at this point it's ours to lose now.
Okay, so a lot of the focus and a lot of the, I guess, commentary has been around Looney. Are you looking? Is that the 100% focus for WA1 at the moment?
It is in this very near term. We've got a single RC rig out there. We've got a diamond rig that's going to come and join it in a month, and so we're drilling that out. Are we overvalued? We've hit between Looney and our P2 carbonatite, which we haven't even spoken about today. These are two really, really rare, significant mineralized carbonatites, and so. We're talking about Looney. We're focused there. It's 3 kilometres long by about 1 kilometre. So that in itself is taking us a fair bit of time to get our heads around.
Yeah.
And P2 is really similar. Again, it's about 3 kilometres long, this anomaly. It could be just as significant as Looney, but we've got to start somewhere. Getting together this mineralized envelope we've got something to work with. We've got something that can now fall into a maiden resource estimate that we've promised that we'll get out in the second half of this year. It can let us start doing all the long lead items around permitting, environmentals, all those sort of scoping study elements. And so we're just really trying to get our heads around that, and then later this year we'll get over to P2 and start drilling that out. It's like I said, it's another really significant mineralised system. We know that from our single drill hole, and so we'll keep exploring that. And we've got a raft of other targets out there as well. So last year it was nerve-wracking. We were out there, like I said, to drill a couple of holes, and it was proper reconnaissance drilling. And this year, we're able to drill with a lot more cash, a lot more people, and hopefully keep making discoveries out there, because we've only drilled three out of a number of targets that we've got.
The journey is only just beginning, and we are starting to run out of time. But so, Paul, let's wrap it up in a bow, if you like, and give us 3 reasons why you think those that are watching, those that are listening, those that are following your story should be sitting up and taking notice of you right now. You could just say P1, P2, and there might be a P3. There's 3 reasons, but I
think if I look back at our results last week, I think we've hit some of the highest grade niobium intersections that we can find globally. And so that alone is significant, and we're obviously drilling out that learning carbonatite and hoping for more good things. So I think that's probably reason number one. We've hit something very unique. A lot of people aren't familiar with niobium. People don't talk about it because they don't have it. And we've got carbonatites, genuine carbonatites that host amazing deposits around the world, like Mount Weld's of the world. So I think we've got something that's really unique. It's a critical metal, and it's in Western Australia. My third point, we're just getting started. I guess this is the first result from this year's drill program. But like last year, over almost 18 months ago when we spoke, we've got very structured corporate and operational objectives, but we've now got the cash. We've got a really great group of people. We've got the motivation, and last week's results are just the beginning. So feeling pretty good about life.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining me on Small Caps. Come back when you've got some more results, but sounds to me like you've got your hands on a monster, and you'll just keep on drilling and making sure that shareholders are kept up to date. So thanks for joining me on Small Caps today. No worries at all. And thanks to everyone that's supported us on this journey. Really do appreciate it. And we'll keep working as hard as we can. Good on you, Paul. Thank you.